Well, good morning everybody and welcome to Development Control B. My name's Cathy Guthrie and I'm the chairman today. May I read some domestic arrangements? Please do not interrupt speakers or hold separate conversations whilst others are speaking. If you're attending the meeting to speak and persistently interrupt the meeting, you may be asked to leave. Please ensure your mobile phones and laptops are on silent. We will be using e-voting for this meeting on the Modern Gov app, so please could members make sure they're logged in and ready to use the app. The Council, members of the public and press may record, film, photograph or broadcast this meeting when the public and press are not lawfully excluded. So we have the introductions, the Area Planning Manager, Gemma Walker, Legal Advisor Ian Dupre, Case Officers Alex Scott and Nikita Mossman, and she's being helped by Avril next to her. They look like sisters, don't they? Governance Officer Alicia sat here, and we've got Beth who's steering our internet, which I'm sure will work very nicely today, won't it, Beth? So, on to the agenda. Apologies for absence and substitutions. Do we have any?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Andrew Stringer and we have Councillor Sarah Mansell substituting.
Thank you. To receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests or other registerable interests or non-registerable interests by members. Are there any to declare? Councillor Muller.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I should declare that I was a member of the Stowmarket Planning Committee that discussed item 7B on the agenda today.
Thank you. Any site visits? Oh, sorry. Councillor Mellon?
Yeah, just to declare that I'm the County Councillor for application 7A.
Thank you very much. Any further declarations? No? Thank you. Any site visits? Declarations of site visits? No? Confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of March. Are there any points regarding accuracy of the minutes? No? Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Muller. And a seconder, do I take that, Councillor Caston? And so we can now have an electronic vote, if we may, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Members, that vote is now in progress.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That is 7 votes for and 1 abstention, so that is carried.
Thank you. To receive notification of petitions in accordance with the Council's petition scheme.
None received, Chair.
Thank you. We'll do the planning applications in the order in which they appear in our bundle. So we start off with land east of Huntston Road, Badwell Ash, and I'll now invite the Case Officer Alex Scott to introduce the application, please. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chairman. Yes, item 7A, application reference DC 22057001. This is an application for approval of reserved matters relating to the layout, scale, appearance and landscaping in relation to 52 dwellings, which was granted outline planning permission, including access, by committee on the 24th of July 2019. So this first slide is the location of Badwell Ash for the avoidance of doubt, and just for points of reference we have Bury St Edmunds here, Stowmarket just off the screen here, and I over here, this over here, the A140 and the A14. This is a site location plan submitted with the application. This is a wider aerial view of the site, so to the south of the village, within a former sand and gravel quarry between Huntston Road here and Wesley Way to the south. And here is a closer aerial view of the site. And if we move to some constraints, the site presently sits outside of the settlement boundary of the village, which is denoted by this brown line here. There is a public right-of-way which leads from the access to the site along this boundary to the bottom of the field and then along Wesley Way to the south. The site does not lie within a special landscape area. However, there is the start of a special landscape area across Hunston Road to the northwest. The site somewhat affects the setting of a Grade 2 listed building here to the opposite side of Hunston Road. And these hatched areas represent Environment Agency flood zones 2 and 3, which again are to the south and southwest of the site. And the site occupies higher ground within flood zone 1, where there is the least likelihood of flood risk. And there are also some protected species issues, most notably toads on the site, and all along Hunston Road and Wesley Way there are warning notices of toads crossing, and that has been a significant issue with the application, as explained within the report. This is the layout presently proposed. So we have 34 market dwellings and 18 affordable dwellings. And there is a mix of one-bedroom apartments, which are within the affordable dwellings in 3 blocks here. And the remainder would be a mix of 2, 3, and 4-bedroom dwellings in a mix of styles, which I have slides in a moment. So the proposed housing mix, the orange and red represent 2-bedroom dwellings, the green 3-bedroom dwellings, and the blue 4-bedroom dwellings. And this is the proposed landscaping scheme. So a variety of new planting, turfing, and some more structural landscaping to the existing open boundary to the south, and indeed alongside the public right-of-way here. Now, this feature here is the flood risk attenuation basin, which would be predominantly dry and unless instances of flooding, and that has been leveled and graded in accordance with the recommendations of the floods officer at the county council. And there, as we go round, this is the proposed refuse strategy, showing bin presentation and storage points. And swept path analysis has been submitted, and that has been checked by your waste strategy officer, who has raised no objections. This is the proposed parking plan. Now, the blue indicates parking for the market dwellings. There are 97 in total. The pink for the affordable dwellings. And there are 30 of those, and the yellow are for visitor parking, and there are 13 of those. And yes, pleased to see no tandem parking has been proposed. This is the materials plan. So just broadly, there is a mix of weathered and cream brick and facing off-white rough cast render. And the roofs will be a mix of dark red and dark grey flat plain tiles, flat tiles. This is the proposed story heights. Now, all the buildings would be 2-story, and the darker colour you can see there, just 2 buildings here, they would be the tallest at 9.3 metres, and then working down to 5.2 metres with a medium height of 8.8 metres. These are the proposed street scenes. Now, this... yeah, anyway, sorry, technology's not helping me at the moment. But yes, if you can see the BB to the bottom of the page, that would be what you would see from Hunston Road. But it does have an area of trees in front of it, but cutting through that, that would be the street scene there. And the top at AA, that would be looking west down one of the access roads to the middle of the site. That also shows site levels, I think, very accurately, having been on site. Now, this is these are the proposed front elevations of the market dwellings. So we have a mix of 3, 4, and 2 bedroom there. Although the 2 bedrooms. You could say that they're 3 bedrooms because they have an upstairs study, but they are billed as 2 bedroom, and the other half of the market dwellings there. And these are the affordable dwellings. So we have a number of these blocks to the left of the screen there, and they would have ground floor apartments and first floor apartments, a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom. We would then have some 2 bedroom semi-detached and some 3 bedroom semi-detached, all in accordance with the recommendation of your strategic housing officer. And this slide just shows a comparison between what was considered at outline stage, being indicative at that point, so that is on the left-hand side of the screen. To the right side of the screen is what is currently proposed. So we're moving away from this circular road pattern to the centre to a more linear street scene pattern, and just pulling dwellings around the existing lake to the middle of the site, and the attenuation basin much smaller than originally built, but that is down to requirements of the flood authority. So we're on to some photographs here. This is looking away from the site down Hunston Road, and that shows the character of the existing dwellings to the north. And then down the opposite side to the frontage of the site. I'm sorry, the pointer is not working, but you might be able to see just right at the very far end where the road bends round. That is the point of access, and that access you can see in the foreground is to the existing dwellings, and there is a small recycling centre there adjacent, which people use, and people do presently cut through here to walk the site. However, that is not the formal public right-of-way, which would be at the point of access, which is further down the road there. And that copse of trees you can see in the foreground, that would all be retained and enhanced. There would be a footpath through that, connecting into this existing public footpath to the village centre, and that includes a sensory walking area, which has been discussed and proposed by the applicant as well. Now, this is beyond that copse of trees you saw there across the site. So this is the site's present northern boundary, and that little cluster of vegetation to the right is around the existing lake to the centre of the site, which is actually outside of the red line site boundary, but obviously adjacent to it. And then moving around, looking south along the existing trees, all proposed to be retained as part of the proposal and enhanced. And finally, we have a the best view from Westley Way. Most of Westley Way is screened with vegetation, but in this gateway you can see across the site, and the site is there raised in the background. So I hope that gives a good idea of the perception from that angle. So that really concludes the presentation, Chair. As set out in the papers, officer recommendation of approval. And there are a few items as part of the table papers. One late response from Public Rights of Way, which removes its prior concerns with regards to impact on the public right of way. They consider the applicant has addressed that with the latest layout you've seen on screen there. And also some information from the corporate manager building control with regards ground stability and foundations, which was raised by the chair and vice chair at briefing, so hopefully that's helpful. So that concludes the presentation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much for that, Alex. And also, thank you. Our briefing has gone really well there, because slide 20, I think, was very useful to show us the comparisons. It's all very well putting one up, but when you see the two side by side, it makes life a little easier to just compare what was and what is now suggested. And thank you for the late papers too. An interesting question with an interesting response, actually, because it wasn't just totally no, regarding the fact that it had been a pit and it's now been filled in, albeit 30 years ago. So thank you for that. That was very, very helpful. Any questions for the planning officer? Councillor Mansell, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of, well, 3 queries, actually. In your presentation, you talked about 2-bed market dwellings. On page 28 of the papers, section 2.4, it doesn't mention any 2-bed market dwellings. So could you just clarify that? Shall I do all the questions at once?
Okay. Yes, I mean, technically the floor plans call a few of the market dwellings 2-bedroom, but because of the presence of an upstairs study, it's technically could be used for 3-bedroom dwellings.
So could I just follow up on that question?
Yeah.
So is that 3rd room too small for a bedroom? Do those so-called 2-bed or 3-bed houses meet the space standards?
Well, that's the issue. No, they don't. No, it would be a box room. It doesn't meet the nationally described space standards. So yes, on the elevations, I've tried to clarify that with the 2-bedroom sort of, but that's as billed from the applicant.
So in effect, they're being billed as 2-bed because they don't meet the space standards for 3.
I think that's fair to say. Yes.
Okay, that was my first question about the 2-bed houses. Can you, I mean, on the plan, it looks quite a spacious development. So could you give us a density, housing density? That's the second question.
That is at the top of the report. So we have a gross density of 20.8 dwellings per hectare, and a net density, subtracting the open space and the sustainable drainage, at 34.2 dwellings per.
Yes, indeed, it is in the report. You must have missed it.
Yes.
And your third question, thank you.
My third question, you had a photograph of the Huntston Road, I think it was Huntston Road, where the existing pull-in is, where the recycling bins are, or whatever they are. Now, on the plan, it looks like there's a new pavement going from that point to the access to the development, and it's quite wooded. So are any trees going to be removed to put that pavement in? From the plan, it looks like there's a pavement from that pull-in to the access for the new development.
Yes. There's a current desire line path, I think you could term it, that people do actually walk through there. That is proposed to be utilised. So there are no significant trees proposed to be removed.
I think on the plan there's a path through the trees, which is obviously the sort of desire line one, but there also looks like there's a pavement, a new bit of pavement along the side of the road. On the plan,
Let's have a look. I've gone the wrong way. Let's say to the layout plan. I'm just double checking, I'm sure that is the case. But,
I've got the plan from the planning portal up on my screen, and, it does say new 2 metre wide footpath.
yes, along Hunstanton Road itself, yes, so that would be the case, yes.
So that's not going to, that's going to be without removing any trees. They can put that in without doing anything other than trimming the trees.
Yes, and there is, from my perspective, there is room within the existing verge. That's my assessment, if that's okay.
Any further questions? Councillor Warboys and then Councillor Mellon. Thank you.
Would it be possible just to expand a bit on the comments from Anglian Water on page 21, referring the current water recycling centre, which I assume is a Badwell ash water recycling centre, being developed in order to cope with the foul drainage from this development. But the second paragraph, it talks about Anglian Water reviewing the applicant's submitted foul drainage strategy and consider that the impact has not been adequately addressed at this stage. So what sort of shade does that cast on this application in regards of approving it?
Well, I mean, quite right. I mean, Anglian Water have advised at the time of writing that there wasn't capacity. Now, as I understand, this is in a bit of flux. You know, it really depends at what point you consult them. Now, the applicant separately has consulted Anglian Water, and at the point that they consulted them, they said there was capacity. So it is in a little bit of flux all the time, as I understand. But I mean, the Water Authority are obliged to accept the development and to mitigate that, as part of their obligations. So it would be something that they and the applicant would need to sort out. Now, in order to...
Can I just interject there and just ask your good self, if I may, on your behalf, you might be thinking it as well, is can we put a clause in or something that Anglia, before things start, that Anglia Water have to accept that they must be able to mitigate the issue that Councillor Warboys is raising?
Perhaps I'll chip in there, Alex.
Yes, of course.
If you don't mind.
So essentially, Anglian Water have an obligation to take the flows regardless, and what we tend to find happens is it's a matter of phasing of the infrastructure. So there is a combination of which the way this comes forward and the way the Anglian Water infrastructure comes forward. So it might be more of a phasing requirement so that we understand this will come forward at this many houses a year, and we know that the Anglian Water infrastructure comes forward together in that way, rather than a other restriction.
Yeah, so... and so if you'd like to continue, thank you. And we've got a bit of a response. We can use it in debate. Thank you.
The second part of my question was about the applicant's submitted foul drainage strategy that Anglia Water don't feel has been adequately addressed. So they're putting the onus there, I think, on the applicant to produce a foul drainage strategy.
Yes, you know, again, it's that's down to the applicant and Anglian Water to remediate amongst themselves, I would imagine. But I'll just reiterate, they are obliged to accept the flows. And this needs to be sorted out. I'm going to ask Gemma. I mean, I'm not sure what relevance this really has to the reserve and matters. I mean, this is a point of principle.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a couple of things that this would have been part of the in-principle discussions on the outline, so we do have to bear that in mind along the way. And also, I think what that is driving at is that we haven't got capacity for the flows, hence the concern over the foul drainage. But once the capacity becomes sorted through Anglian water infrastructure, that should knit together. But again, I think we could perhaps weave something in by way of condition, and perhaps Alex and I will just have a quick look at the outline and check if there's anything further that might help us there.
Yeah, I just wonder if we can put a condition on to say that no occupation until that's sorted. I mean, you know, if they want to build it and take the chance, we'll discuss that again, but a very valid point. Any further input on that one, Councillor Warboys? No, we can always ask the agent for that. Thank you very much. Councillor Mellon?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just want to ask a question about toads. The local toad group put in a report which had 4 recommendations in it.
Do we need it? Is it a question? Sorry, I'm getting things from behind you. Carry on, Councillor Mellon.
So I can only see that one of those recommendations has been taken up, which is the drop curbs, which is good to see. But there was 3 others: amphibian ladders in the open drains and gullies, an amphibian tunnel under the road, and amphibian fencing. But I couldn't see those in the ecology sort of recommendations.
Perhaps if they're not, we can add them in our discussion and add it to it, but rather than sort of worry about whether it's specifically the last 2 bits, we can make sure that's included. Would you be happy with that, Councillor? Yeah. Councillor Mansell has another question. Yes, please.
Hopefully this is a quick one. Can you just confirm that the footpath that's on the sort of western side, the current existing public right-of-way, is going to be open, that, you know, there's no fence between the open space on the plan and that footpath?
Yes, so on the landscaping plan, that is going to have a 2 metre wide buffer by the looks of things, and yeah, that has been checked by public rights of way, who are happy with the latest layout that's been proposed.
So you can go from the public open space of the new development straight onto the footpath. No fences.
No fences. No. That's not fenced. No.
Councillor Caston, thank you.
Thank you very much. Could you show me the path of the electric wires that came up on the map, please? I believe they come down that left-hand side as we see it, but I just want to know exactly where they are. Yeah, and there's another, this is the other one. You can see the power line in the top.
So along the street scene, really, yeah. So that would be, it would be over the proposed footpath, but...
Do they follow the road beside it, or do they actually go over the site, please? It's very hard to tell from...
Yeah, of course, yeah. Okay,
Google Earth doesn't always show you clearly where they run.
So to the north of the site there, you can see there another telegraph pole there. But yeah, from my site visit, it's not something I considered specifically, I have to say, but yeah.
You wouldn't, but no.
Yeah, from memory there was nothing crossing the site, but there is something to the north and to the northwest along Hunston Road. Yes, yeah, the existing telegraph poles.
Right, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We Do we have anyone from the Parish Council? No. An objector? No. Supporter? No. Agent? Mr Jamie Martin Edwards, James Bailey, Ellie Drodwaska and Wayne Worsdale assist with answering questions, but you only have 3 minutes. So please give us your 3 minutes. That will be very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. My name is Jamie Martin Edwards. I'm a Senior Planner for James Bailey Planning, and I'm joined today by James Bailey, along with Wayne Worsdale of Mulberry Homes. We've been leading on this application for reserve matters at land east of Huntston Road, Badwell Ash. Between us, we should be able to answer any questions that you may have. The site already benefits from an outline planning permission which was secured in January 2020. Therefore, the principle of residential development has been accepted, and the application date before you includes appearance, layout, scale and landscaping. This is Mulberry Homes' first project in mid-Suffolk, and as such they're invested in creating an exemplar scheme of low-density housing that is worthy of its setting and will capture the essential character of the existing built environment of Badwell Ash. Mulberry Homes have continued to collaborate with Badwell Ash Parish Council, ensuring that the parish have had a positive influence on the proposed development. This includes a bespoke sensory play area and woodland walk to complement the other recreational facilities within the village. Badwell Ash Parish Council have offered their support on the application during the consultation period. Mulberry Homes have also engaged in 2 pre-apps to ensure that this site delivers on several considerations, including drainage, highways and ecology. Members will note in the papers that there are no holding objections from these statutory consultees. The proposal delivers 52 dwellings, including 18 affordable houses, and the housing mix has been established and agreed by the Council's Strategic Housing Officer and the Section 106. All dwellings will have an electric vehicle charging point, water butts to store rainwater, and will be heated by air source heat pumps. The application includes an ecology enhancement strategy, which sets out a suite of enhancements and mitigation measures. This includes information boards that will be strategically located within the site to educate future residents and visitors about the fauna and flora of the site, a curb-free area at the main access to support migration of toads. The strategy also includes an amphibian hibernacular, enhancements to the existing woodlands, as well as hedgehog fencing. Public open spaces have been provided in 2 locations. The first at the front of the site ensures that the development is set back from the access and creates a buffer to the northern woodland area. A path through this woodland will offer a direct link to the existing pedestrian network into Badwell Ash. This is in addition to the more formalised engineered footpath linking the main access from Huntston Road into Badwell Ash. The second open space is located around the Suds area and creates an important feature and buffer to the boundary shared with the fishing lake adjacent to the site. To conclude, the Reserve Matters application for this site benefits from an existing outline consent. Mulberry is committed to a well-designed scheme for the site that incorporates a number of sustainable measures, including ecology enhancements, electric charging points, and 100% air source heat pumps. The scheme before you today has been developed through extensive discussions with your officers, Suffolk County Council, Anglian Water, and Badwell Ash Parish Council. There are no objections from any statutory consultees, and there's been praise from the Parish Council for the scheme. I would therefore respectfully request members to endorse their officer's recommendation and approve the application today. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope we can answer any of your questions.
Thank you very much indeed. I forgot to put my 3 minutes on, but I think you made it well within the time. You're the first victim I'm going to ask, and probably the last I'll ever ask. Have you ever heard of the Lucy Group?
Lucy, apologies.
Lucy Group Limited, because they have a wonderful development of using street lamps to put electric charging points in. Have you ever heard of them?
Personally, I have not, no.
No, right. I'll bring that into the debate, but that was my question to you. And I think as developers, you'd be well advised to research.
Thank you.
Anyway, questions to the planners there? Anyone? Councillor Mellon.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good to see you again, Mr. Martin Edwards. Can I just ask a question about PV panels? You didn't talk about putting any on the roofs. What's the orientation of the roofs, and have you considered adding those on as a sort of an extra ecological benefit?
Thank you, Councillor Mellon. Great question. We, as part of Condition 14 of the outline application, there's a requirement to submit a sustainability appraisal setting out the energy efficiency of the site. That condition was discharged in January of this year. The wording within that condition required to ensure that there was an intent to go above and beyond 30% over building regs. In this instance, the report that was submitted along with the application and the condition that was discharged back in January through the methods that we're using of 100% air source heat pump, the water retention, the use of sanitary ware within the development itself, we're actually over 57%. So it was considered at the time. We've gone well beyond, and there was no necessary need, based on that condition that's been discharged, to go any further.
I think that answers the question. I don't want debate on it, but it just answers the question. If there's a further question, please do.
Can I ask a question about the toad? Is that possible? I asked the officer about the toad measures earlier. I wonder, have you considered, and it's good to see the drop curbs or the area without curbs, have you considered putting an amphibian tunnel under the access road?
Yes, the answer to that question is yes. We've been in liaising with the Toad Patrol since before Christmas. We met them out on site. We've had extensive conversations with the parish council as well on this matter. Initial questions coming back from Suffolk County Council was, would this affect any adoptable status? This includes the drainage ladders as well, because they are in essence freestanding infrastructure that goes into the drain. So if they were to come loose and fall off within the drain, what impact does that have? It then questioned the adoptability, and that's why we then looked at other deliverable options available, and that's why we actually submitted the enhancement strategy that wasn't a requirement of the reserve matters. In that instance, we've had conversations with our consultants from an ecology perspective, and we looked to see what we could do from an educational perspective. So that's why we've got additional information boards. We're looking to support the Toad Patrol in the future as well as part of this application. And as you said, we look to deliver on the drop curbs because that's something we can clearly do. Interestingly, the two woodland areas that have been identified on the site is in essence where the hibernation of the toads takes place. And the ponds that they migrate to in breeding seasons is on the other side of Huntston Road. So in essence, the toads' movements through our liaising with the Toad Patrol, who are experts in the area and annually go out and help the toads cross the road, is not necessarily toads crossing the grassland that you saw on those pictures there. It's from the woodlands into the next woodlands and then across the road. So the idea with the proposals that we've put forward today is to ensure that we're enhancing that migration path by keeping both woodlands. You'll note in the outline permission it was to strip one of those woodlands out completely and put an open space in there on those two plans. So what we've tried to look to do is maximise the opportunity with the existing habitats within them, and that's why we've not necessarily done the tunnels, for example. The other part of the tunnels in Huntston Road themselves would enter into third-party land, so there's no guarantee that they could be delivered. It would also require ripping up Huntston Road to put in that infrastructure as well, which is obviously quite costly, and as we've seen from the consultee comments, there's no requirement from your ecologist to do that. Hopefully that was a long answer.
That does give us a long thing. I don't think we need any more on that one. I think we've done to toads, frog spawn and beyond on that one. Thank you. Councillor Warboys and then Councillor Mansell. Thank you.
Yes, probably guessed what the question is going to be about. Anglia Water have queried your foul drainage strategy. Could you tell us where you are with regard to addressing those concerns?
Thank you to Councillor Warboys. So the initial comments that came in from Anglia Water were right in terms of questioning, because at the time we hadn't included with our drainage strategy the sewage water strategy, because there wasn't a requirement at that stage. However, as a result of those consultee comments, we opened up the pre-app, which has been submitted on the application and is on the planning portal. That was submitted in January this year. And in essence, we went and had conversations about high-level engineering to ensure that we can meet the demands that are needed from Anglia Water. The pre-app response that's on the website came back and said, yes, we do have capacity based on what it is that you're proposing, as long with, as I mentioned earlier, the energy efficiency with the sanitary ware to reduce the amount of water used per household. In regards to that, we submitted this pre-app response from them to provide reassurances to the council officers and to members, and a subsequent subsequent consultation to Anglian Water on their own pre-app took place. The last comments back from Anglian Water offered no objection on this basis.
Can I just interrupt there, please?
Please.
It's the planners who deal with that. Did you have that response yourselves? That there was no... Exactly, yeah. It's up to the planners to make sure between the Anglia Water, despite your enthusiasm, I would have thought. Shall we debate that point, Councillor Warboys?
Yes, it's not in the documents, is it? Or have I missed it?
Yes, yes.
Well, that's why I'm raising
May
the
I,
point.
Chair? I'm just looking on page 21 in the papers. We've got Anglian Water's comments on the 25th of November, which do include the comment about the foul drainage strategy, but the comments below then are the 27th of March this year, which confirms they have had a further review, I think. They note they're unable to provide comments on the surface water management, but we've got that separately from Suffolk County Floods. I think that addresses the key point. Obviously, there's still the phasing of the infrastructure scenario.
And as I said, as we debate, maybe we can put something in place. Councillor Mellon's shaking his head, but for debate, let's put that in for the debate rather than now. Do you have a further question, Councillor
Yes, just one other question. It's
So we're getting a rather long-winded replies. We're getting a debate rather than answer to the councillor's question.
Some of the drawings show chimneys on several of the houses. Are those purely decorative?
Yeah, that's correct. That's not on all houses. As a result of our consultation prior to Christmas with the parish council, we had recognised that there is a character within the area around chimneys and the street scene. We had put forward that option to the parish council on the development to have faux chimneys to complement that character. As I said, it's not on all of them, and that was something that they've set out in their comments that they would like to see to ensure from their perspective, albeit subjective, that the character of the area is cohesive. So we've put them on some of them to ensure that there's kind of that tie-in with the existing character of Badwell Ash. But yes, that's correct. They are all faux chimneys. There's no fireplaces being proposed in this instance.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mansell, thank you.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions. The first one, in relation to the parish council's comments, as well as the faux chimney pots, they've also asked that the road through the development is going to be adopted. Can you, I know you can't tell me if Suffolk County Council are going to adopt it, but is it to adoptable standard?
Yes, I'll keep
My
that one.
second question follows on from Councillor Mellon's comments about PV panels. Are you able to assure us that any future resident in this development will be able to put solar panels on the roofs without restriction, as I've heard that is a restriction on some of other new developments in the district? Thank you.
I think that's more for the planning officer, isn't it, to put restrictions on, is it not?
The developer puts restricted covenants on
Covenants.
new developments
You didn't mention
to not allow solar panels on the front aspect, and I just wanted to check that that wasn't going to be the case here.
Yep, my colleague Wayne here has confirmed that Mulberry Homes would have no objection of ensuring no covenants in regards to installing solar panels for future residents would be on place.
Any further questions, Councillor Caston?
Thank you. Could you help me out with this route of the power lines on the site, please? Thank you.
Would it be helpful if we could put slide 20 up, which shows the layout plan? Thank you. That photo there you just saw with the telegraph pole is situated, if we look at the right-hand side layout plan, we've got the northern parcel of green woodland area and where the recycling bins are. That is located there. Now, those power lines wrap around outside of the red line plan around the top of that northern woodland area, and it's actually indicated where those annotation, there's like a paragraph annotations there, that's exactly it. There's some lines indicated on that plan outside of the red line that shows where those lines are. Hopefully that's helpful.
So just to confirm, they're outside the red line plan?
That's correct, yeah. In the northern part, the closest, they're just to the north of, of the actual site, overall site as well. Yeah, so outside.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, you probably complain to me, but just listening to the questions, obviously promote questions. I might have missed it. With the ecology on the toads, are there likely to be any signage or anything to assist people with their education on it and things like that? I mean, I don't know. I might have missed it. I apologise. Yes or no is the answer.
Yes, and we're also looking at giving the occupiers, when they come into the new homes, information about the toads in the local area as well. So that has been agreed with Mulberry that will be provided to the new occupiers.
Can I recommend that you put on them that toads are poisonous to dogs?
Noted. Thank you.
Right. I think we're open for the ward member to give his views, please. Councillor Mayor, would you like to tell us your views?
Thanks, Chair. The Parish Council and people of Badwell Ash fully accept the principle of development that has been established, and these houses will be built. Just for reference, this was a controversial development within the village and resulted in solicitors being engaged by different members of the village to fight their particular corners. So we are talking about a very sensitive issue. I'd also like to point out that Badwell Ash, of a village of 280 houses, has had getting on for 200 additional dwellings being built or being built in the area. So huge amount of development for quite a small village, and I'll return to that. Because of that, there are very real concerns about infrastructure in the village. Very real concerns. Mulberry Homes have to be complemented. They came into this development and have worked hard to establish a strong, viable working relationship with the Parish Council, and in that they've been very successful. And I think the results of that can be seen in what is, I think, quite, from my perspective, a good quality development. It's very pleasing to see air source heat pumps, and future residents will not be looking at large retrofit costs. E-charging all properties, excellent. And the support from Mulberry Homes for the toads, which seem to be a very prominent part of Badwell Ash culture. And if you've ever seen the hordes of people out on a wet, rainy night trying to save them as they cross the road, you'll know how passionate they are about their toads. So I'd like to thank, on behalf of the Parish Council and Mulberry Homes, for their efforts. Being a district councillor, you always want a bit more, and it's nice to see the financial support for the toads that has gone in place. The tunnel was always going to be a big ask because Mulberry Homes don't own all the land, so as well as being expensive, it was going to be difficult. But options for solar panels don't cost very much, and it would be nice to see that offered to residents as an option, and one would hope that the electrical infrastructure in each of the homes will be constructed in such a way that retrofitting panels will be relatively simple. So is everything rosy in the garden? Sadly not. Anglia Water have stated that the water recycling centre cannot take the drainage. That's all right because it's their problem, not ours. Well, sadly, I put in front of you, we, the planning committees, have created this problem. 200 additional dwellings in a village of 280 houses is always going to put massive pressure on the infrastructure. So to turn around and say, it's not our problem, Anglia Water's got to sort it out, I don't think is actually a position that the residents of Badwell Ash would find very easy to accept. I was very pleased to hear the Chair start talking about conditions, because that is the solution that I would like to put before you. Anglia Water have invested in the treatment plant. There's a new storm tank so that the emergency releases when it's been raining should stop. In 2001, 68 times raw sewage left that treatment plant and went into the watercourses around Badwell Ash. Now, what's raw sewage going to do to the toads and all the other flora and fauna in the area? Will Anglia Water accept their responsibilities? Yes, probably in the long term. But how many more emergency releases are going to take place in the interim? I would like to put pressure on Anglia Water, and I would like to suggest or ask you to consider a condition that no houses are occupied until such time as Anglia Water have confirmed that they have capacity. What will this do? This will give Mulberry Homes leverage. If they've built out their site and Anglia Water has not lived up to their responsibilities, then I'd suggest there would be very easily action taken against Anglia Water, which will encourage Anglia Water to get on with it. And if Anglia Water do come forward and confirm that there is capacity, then when they pull the emergency lever and release raw sewage, it will give the residents of Badwell Ash greater leverage to take action against Anglia Water. Nobody wants to see raw sewage in the watercourses around their village, and Badwell Ash is no different. We, the planning committees, have nearly doubled that village. That village that has no school, one small shop, is now nearly 200 extra homes. That's a huge weight of responsibility, and I think I'd ask the planning committees to assist Badwell Ash in their drive to get Anglia Water to live up to their responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very passionate and absolutely on the mark report to us. And one of the things I've done over the years, my training told me that I never discuss any application as a planning committee member with any other member on that committee. But that doesn't always happen. But I can assure you I have not discussed with Councillor Mayer the issue of putting a condition on of no occupation before no occupation before Anglia Water accepts their responsibilities. And I can absolutely uphold that that's what I will be looking for as a condition as the debate goes forward. So thank you, Councillor Mayer. At least we've been thinking along the same lines, be it telepathy, we've never discussed it. So thank you for that. Any questions for the ward member? Councillor Warboys.
Right. Just a question about a date, really. You mentioned 2001, and since then Anglia Water have improved the site.
Did I say 2001? It was 2021, sorry.
Simply because I looked up some information on the river trusts, and in 2022, stormwater overflow spilled 32 times for a total of 443.5 hours into Salary Brook. So whatever Anglia Water have done hasn't really solved this problem.
I was talking to an Anglia Water executive just 2 days ago, and he informed me about the stormwater tank that's been implemented. I am not sure when that came on stream. So when their enhancements actually became operational, I don't know.
So that's something that needs to be clarified, perhaps.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? Any other questions for the ward member? Thank you very much indeed. Right, well, I think we've got a lot of interesting questions and answers, and what just looked like one application has got some rather intriguing twists and turns. Who'd like to start me off? Councillor Muller, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for everyone for their comments and questions, etc. I too, like yourself, Chair, and some of the members here today, are really concerned about this Anglian water issue, and it was very well put forward by Councillor Mayer. And I definitely think we should consider a condition of adding to this application, if we choose to pass it, that a condition should be added that perhaps no building should be occupied until Anglian Water has solved the problem. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Gould.
Thank you, Chair. And like Councillor Muller, I'm grateful to colleagues on the committee for the questions that they put, but particularly Councillor Warboys, who avoided the need for me to ask the question that he so eloquently asked. My concerns with this otherwise excellent application are about the situation with Anglian Water, and I too would support the writing in of a condition as has been described. And I'd compliment Councillor Mayer on his presentation. I thought he presented the points extremely well. And sometimes it's good to step back from the application and see the impact of what we are agreeing. We look at individual applications, but sometimes stepping back and looking at the impact, the cumulative impact of that it's important to do that. And it's all very well to say that Anglia Water have obligations which they must meet, but as a public body, really, we ought to be making sure that we're approaching things in a collegiate and constructive manner, because it's no consolation to anyone if we see the problems in the future, including discharges, as has been described. So I would, though, compliment the applicant. I think this is a very good application indeed, and not least in terms of their engagement with bodies concerned, particularly the parish council. It seems such an obvious and positive way to proceed, and it constantly surprises me the extent to which other developers don't do this. So I note this is your first development in Mid-Suffolk, but I commend the approach that you've taken and hope that you carry on taking that approach. A brief mention before I shut out to the question of faux chimneys, which have come up from time to time in this committee, and I think there's kind of a view being expressed that these are probably add to the building costs and represent a future liability, and so the balance of benefit of cost liability isn't really an attractive one. So, and I noticed that you've only proposed it on a few houses, so perhaps we can have a rethink about that. On the other hand, the parish council, it's something that is important to them, so it's a minor point, but I would certainly be supportive of this application with the condition that's been proposed, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I forgot who was next. I think it was Councillor Mansell and then Councillor Caston. Thank you.
Thank you. I too would like to commend the developer for his engagement with the parish council. I think quite a lot of thought and good design has gone into this proposal. I too have a couple of niggles. One of them is faux chimneys. I don't like things that are pertaining to be things that they're not. But I guess we just need to educate Badwell Ash Parish Council of the folly of their ways for future development. And I think looking at the plan, there do seem to be not a high proportion of houses with roofs oriented for best solar gain. But you do seem to have done a lot of other energy-saving, environmentally friendly initiatives with this development. And thank you very much for making sure that any future resident will be able to put solar panels on, because I've only recently discovered that these things have been restricted. So that's good. I too am concerned about water drainage, and it's obviously become quite a big thing at the moment. But I have a little bit of a doubt in my mind about imposing a condition on another body. If we impose a condition for Anglian Water to sort out what they're doing with the surface water drainage or whatever it is, that is outside of the developer's control. And I know of other developments within my ward where conditions have been put on outside bodies and they're just not done. So I would like some confirmation from the legal and the planning officers that it is possible to put a condition on Anglian Water before I can make a proposal.
Yeah, I think the Chief Planning Officer wants to have a word, a 5-minute time out. At what point do you want to do that? Do you want to stop the debate now before we go any further? I think we're all on the same page. And then we can come back to debate once you've had some discussion. Would that be helpful now?
Perhaps if I just set out some of the issues, see where we get to, and then if we need to, we can take the 5 minutes if members are satisfied, because I'm hearing a strong preference for that condition. So.
I mean, you know, Councillor Mansell makes a very valid point. However, we have put in place restrictions on occupation until on other things. And I know you've said that they haven't always worked.
And you can't blame the developer because the developer has done their bit.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but I'm just saying we need to sort of be clear on what we can do to assist. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we need to get the right outcome. Yeah, so let's continue with our debate. Did you want to
Yeah,
just...
would you mind, Chair?
Yes,
If
no,
that-
please,
that'd be
join
helpful.
in, that will help us
Thank
form our
you.
debate.
So we've got a couple of issues that I've been looking into with sort of perhaps where Anglian Water may or may not have changed direction or done various things. From what I can see on the outline, they raised no objection. That's the only comment I've got. I cannot find their full comments, so I don't know more than that. That's literally what was reported back to committee, was no objection on the outline. That then feeds into this in that we are looking at reserved matters, so scale, appearance, layout and landscaping. So that comes a question where we may draw in on the possibility of doing that really this is an outline one question, and can we do anything at reserved matters? So we might need to take that away and have that conversation, and again, depending on some advice from Ian. What we have done in the past, again on an outline, rather than reserved matters, is looking to agree a phasing plan with the developer so that the phasing of the development would come in line with the Anglian Water development. So it doesn't require that Anglian Water does something. What it does is restricts the development coming forward or being occupied until the matching infrastructure is delivered by Anglian Water. And essentially that's kind of a forward planning for the delivery of the infrastructure. But I said that's on outline, and that's the kind of knotty question that we've just been trying to dig through a little bit more on for you while that's been under debate. So I don't know, Ian, if you perhaps...
Can I be heard? Just move this out of the way. Sorry, excuse me a moment. Yes, indeed, I agree. Councillor Mansell, if I may say so, did part of my job for me, and she's absolutely right. You can have, this wouldn't be a Grampian condition. You can sometimes say that something won't happen until something else does happen, but it is only to be done if it's necessary and proportionate and unavoidable. And there is an issue that this is not, we're not at outline stage or full permission. We're dealing with reserved matters. That doesn't mean we can't do anything. But yes, I just say I agree with Mrs. Walker, and I think we do need a little bit of time to discuss this further, perhaps with yourself, Madam Chair, and
Would you want to take that now or before the debate? I mean, you know, because obviously I think everybody is sort of thinking, just a minute, Councillor Mellon, I'll come to you in a minute. I don't want to stop a good debate, but on the other hand, if we have some more information, it might change the angle of the debate a bit. What do you think? I'll ask Ian really as to, do we have 5 minutes now, or what do you think? No, you want to continue?
Well,
let's continue.
Shall we, if we...
We'll continue.
May then be necessary, perhaps.
Yes, but you can hear the views of the people. So, Councillor Mansell, had you finished?
Yeah. Thank you.
And then Councillor Caston was next, and then Councillor Mellon, if you would, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so more of the same. I think it's so important that these committees know that there's adequate infrastructure, especially sewage. I would like to see Anglia Water give us a full capacity assessment of what's going on there, but I do completely understand as well, if they don't want to do it, the developers are being penalised. But at the same time, I don't want that to be the process that things work under, because that process is completely wrong, because we're forever building things that we haven't got capacity for, and you know that's not the way it's supposed to work. I won't talk too much on that, because we're obviously going to take the 5 minutes and talk about what we can do, and I'll see how I feel about the conclusion that comes to. Fake chimneys. Wouldn't it be great if those fake chimneys had a purpose in a form of biodiversity, or bees, birds or bats, that made them not chimneys at all, but something in the shape of a chimney that served a purpose on top of the house to provide harbourage for whatever it's necessary for. I wouldn't have a problem at all with a fake chimney on our house if it was doing something other than looking like a chimney. So there's the big thing on this that's keeping me from making a decision is this need for capacity in the sewerage system, I'll wait and see how that turns out from the discussions that are going on. But thank you. I have no position on this at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Caston. That's a very interesting concept, actually, to use the chimney. I've actually got a burglar alarm on, and the burglar alarm, they couldn't test it because the bats were in the burglar alarm, so they had to disconnect it, and I've got another one on there. This year, when they come again, I expect they're going to be in there. So it's a very interesting concept, that. Thank you for that. So we move on to Councillor Mellon, if you would, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, I think that's a stroke of brilliance, Councillor Caston. You could, I think you can set up a business marketing those. Do very well. Yeah, for bees and so forth. So a couple of things before I turn to the Anglian Water thing. So on the Toad Tunnel, just to give a little bit of good news, in my role as County Councillor, I had discussions with highways officers, and there is a double culvert underneath Hunston Road, and they think that one of those could be amended to become a tow tunnel under there. So that's a really good sort of result.
Can I just interrupt you there? Who owns the land on that?
Well, it's highways. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, I would obviously prefer to see PV panels, even if you've got air source heat pumps. They do need electricity to run them, and although it tends to be you need the heat pump when the sun isn't shining, PV panels and batteries would be a good result for those homeowners, and they can be quite expensive to run, the air source heat pumps. But I'll leave that to one side. So just to turn to the main issue, which I think is the Anglian Water thing. Members will remember we debated in this chamber back in November last year about the issue of sewage outflows into streams, and we unanimously agreed a motion then, and I'm really pleased to see in this report a section talking about the impact of that on water courses. I think it's the first one I've seen actually in a report, so it's great to see that. But it was made very clear during that debate that we couldn't use the issue of potential spillages of sewage into watercourses to refuse an application. We just don't have the policy for that to stand on. So I really like the idea that we can impose a condition if that's possible. We don't have anything within our own policy that would prevent or that would allow us to refuse an application on those grounds. The only thing we do have is the MPPF, and there's one paragraph, 174E, which talks about preventing new development from contributing to water pollution. So I just want to add that into the debate and maybe into the time-out discussion. Just to go back on the figures that Councillor Warboys mentioned, 2021, this is the one that Councillor Mayer quoted, there were 68 flood events where the combined storm overflow discharged into the watercourse, over 1,000 hours. Last year, it was less than half that, 32 and 443.5 hours. But if you remember, last year was a very, very dry year, so there wasn't those kind of high rainfall events which would generate the flows that would spill over. So I'm not entirely sure where, how much the facilities and the infrastructure has been enhanced at the Badwell Ash treatment works, and I would clearly like to see that enhanced if that can possibly be achieved. Thank you, Chair.
Can we do that through this planning committee on this application?
Could I pop in here, Chair? Thank you. So I'll come back to this application in a second. Absolutely on an outline, yes, I think we're absolutely in a position. As I said, we've got a condition that's actually already applied, but I have some good news. So yes, in the future is my definite position on that. If we've got an outline or a full, we can definitely do something by condition so that we've got that certainty that as the houses come out of the water, we know, terrible pun, sorry, as they come out of the water, that the infrastructure for the drainage will come at the same time. However, I've been having another detailed read on the pre-planning from Anglian Water on the 13th of January, and if I read it, The foul drainage from the proposed development is in the catchment of Badwell Ash Water Recycling Centre, which currently has capacity to treat the flows from your development site. Anglian Water cannot reserve capacity, and the available capacity at the water recycling can be reduced at any time due to growth, environmental and regulation-driven changes. So that is the beginning of this year that says they did have capacity. So I suspect is why we had their amended comments. But that seems to me that they do have the capacity, and I suppose it's which house gets built out to fill the capacity will be something that ultimately Anglian Water do need to deal with, and I hope give members more certainty over this current scenario, but again makes me less happy to put a condition on that they do seem to be working on this.
So in other words, at the next stage, because people don't understand that you get outline and then you get reserved matters and then you get the full application. So what you're saying is a lot of what we're worried about could be helped at a full application and more teeth given to it, I think, if that's the explanation I can give. But, I mean, should members be minded to approve, could we put an informative on that at the outline that these aspects need to be addressed? Does that give almost a Grampian condition on the next bit, if you like?
So I think from my side, I was going back in the process. Is if we were talking at an outline today, absolutely, yes, I'd be there. Ultimately, we have done that. We had no objection from them then. They've currently said, as of January this year, that they had capacity. And probably in this case, I think, bearing in mind we're at reserve matters, we probably need to follow that and leave that with Anglian Water. But yes, in the future, on other cases, I suppose I was saying...
Another case, I'm talking about
but
this
yes, if you wanted
application.
an informative, that might be the way to go for the developer who are obviously here in the room listening to review that capacity with Anglian Water.
But I've got to give comfort to everybody, myself as well, that we know that we don't want to, or legally we can't block the application, which we wouldn't want to, because we're all very happy with all the hard work that's gone on it. But equally, we don't want to be the people that say, well, sorry, Badwell Ash, you're going to get the water. I mean, I'm really conscious of that. Do you still want 5 minutes out to then come back and give comfort to the committee? Because I can see the looks on everybody's faces is we're not confident that this is going to be that backstop.
Given the strength of feeling, I think that might be worth us just saying what other options we can explore.
Just have 5 minutes, if you would, please. We will just nip out in the corridor there. Is that all right? And, you know, because I'm as nervous as you all are. So could you just... Well, thank you very much for the short interlude there. Very interesting conversations, but I think, you know, when you realise what Ian's going to tell us, I think you'll sort of see where we're probably going on this one. I mean, a lot of people don't understand you have outline, you have reserve matters, and then you have a full application, and that's where the problem sits. So, Ian, if you would like to just explain a little further as to what might give comfort to the committee members.
Yes, if I may, I'd say first of all, it's not my job to tell the committee what to do, but to give legal advice. Now, what I'm happy to repeat in this room in public session when we're on YouTube, what we said to you, Madam Chairman, outside, that in this matter, an outline permission for 52 dwellings has been granted. That's a given, and it's capable of being implemented as soon as reserved matters approval is given and any conditions are discharged. So we have the principle of 52 dwellings. This reserved matters application it's not about access, because that is a reserved matter but was dealt with at outline, as it commonly is on any estate development. We're left with a scale, appearance and layout. So we have totally understandable concerns from well, I think every member of the committee who's spoken and the ward member about what I'll call the Anglian water situation, the sewage management. Go through those three things: appearance, scale and layout. The appearance of dwellings has no impact that I can think of on that. The scale might, to a degree, because of the size of dwellings and the occupation and so forth, might have relate to the sewage issue, and in some situations the layout of an estate might, but I'm not sure if it is. So I'm applying those factors. There is some room for manoeuvre for the committee, but I'm afraid I'm not sure that in this case, with this 52 dwellings, the scale or the layout gives you very much of a legal basis for a condition at this stage. At outline, it would have been legally possible given the right set of circumstances and advice. There is room, of course, for an informative, which my planner colleagues will advise you further on, but that is I'm afraid, that is my reluctant legal advice to you at this moment.
Thank you, Ian. And just one moment, Councillor Mellon, if we can just sort of finish this off. Gemma, I think we sort of had a discussion. Would you like to share that regarding an informative that we could put on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chair. So I think working through some possible wording, and bearing in mind we've got the applicant and agent in the room, obviously have heard that, and I'm absolutely aware of that as an issue because they will need to deliver it alongside Anglian Water, that we can put that on as an additional informative to note that this needs addressing, that they need to be in contact with Anglian Water to secure the delivery of the Anglian Water infrastructure alongside the phasing of the development.
And also, what we've got to remember, members, as we're discussing, there doesn't seem to be any room here for a refusal because we haven't got grounds for a refusal at this stage. So, Councillor Mellon, if you want to sort of enter into the debate, please do. You had your hand up. Your turn, and then I will say something after.
Well, just to make a couple of points then, Chair. The first one is clearly since the outline was approved, as Councillor Mayer told us, there have been a number of other applications and developments within Badwell Ash. So there's a material change between when the outline was approved, which apparently had no objections from Anglian Water, and today there's a very different situation. So that's the first point. The second point is that in the MPPF paragraph 174E, which I quoted, it doesn't say anything about outline or reserve matters. It just says preventing new development from contributing to water pollution. I'm taking out some of the irrelevant words there. So I don't know that if we could rest some of the concerns on this paragraph, that doesn't seem to me to apply only to outline permissions.
Yeah, but you've got legal advice that we've just taken on the legal advice.
points? Do you
want me to? Yeah, I
for
can.
everybody's
Absolutely. So, 174E, preventing new and existing development from contributing to, being put at unacceptable risk from, or being adversely affected by unacceptable levels of soil, air, water or noise pollution or land instability. Development should, wherever possible, help to improve local environmental conditions such as air and water quality, taking into account relevant information such as river basin management plans. It goes on.
Yeah, so that is paragraph 174 as a whole starts by saying planning policies and decisions. So the council, when it's making a new plan, the village with its neighbourhood plan should, and also decisions, i.e. that you're quite right, Councillor Mellon, that does include today making a decision, should do all these things, and E is preventing new and existing. That is absolutely right, but all I would say is it means as far as you're legally capable of doing so on the day, given what's already happened and what is already granted.
See, a lot of it is outside the applicant's control, and you know, if you're going to do this on this one, you're going to do it on all applications that come before you that they say, you know, I mean, it's outside their control. They know that they've got an application that could go forward, and because Anglia Water are dithering, at the next stage you could then put in a condition about no occupation, couldn't you, Gemma?
So we wouldn't have another stage on this one.
Well, they've got to do.
This is the reserve matters, so we potentially have any conditions that would still need dealing with, but then we'd have to have added that by now. What I would say is Anglian Water should have been aware of each of those applications as they come forward and totted them up cumulatively. So day one we get 52 in and we say we've got enough, we know then we've got another however many added on top of that. They should be aware, and obviously we did have that consultation, well not consultation response, but this pre-planning report that we've got saying that there was capacity as of January this year.
Right, okay. Councillor Caston, yeah. Then Councillor
We say, yeah, outline's been, and that was the time to prevent this, but in the reserve matters, we talk about layout, and we talk about numbers of houses on the site. So I think this could come down to what number of houses on the site in reserve matters do preserve the water quality under this paragraph 174E. So I think I think it's still relevant to reserve matters because we're talking about how many houses on that site feed into the sewerage, and that's a capacity issue. So for me, I don't agree that we've missed the boat on this one, but I'd quite like people to discuss that or to get some legal advice.
Well, I think we need the legal advice on it because, you know, I've just been given legal advice that we can't, and now...
If you're making a decision today on the appearance, layout and scale of the development, i.e. the 52 houses that have been permitted in outline, if you are satisfied, and you're bearing in mind the professional advice from the lady and gentleman sitting in front of me, that layout and scale have some bearing and relation to that would be a basis for a condition. But I think that my colleagues need to speak further on that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I think if you are content that the layout is one of the drivers for that, that is a relation to the reserve matters, and if that's, you know, the particular concern of committee, I think we might just want to just check in with the agent before we went on that. But the possibility of the additional condition securing the phasing of the layout in accordance with the foul water drainage infrastructure. Does that seem to capture the particular concern in that case?
Well, what you're saying is the phasing, and I think what Councillor... All right, I'll come to you in a minute, Councillor. But what Councillor Castor might be saying, and please, could you correct me, you want 20 houses, not 52 houses. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, what
because,
I'm saying...
Hang on a minute, because
sorry.
you and I won't know whether the capacity from 20 houses or 50 houses, we're not the expert engineers,
no,
would create the better problem. But they've already got outline for this number of houses. Whether it was 20 years ago, it was when we didn't have a 5-year land supply, which was a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is in reserve matters, we're looking at the number of houses on the site, and there probably is a number where we don't see any issues with capacity and water, well, it does sound like there's already issues, but there might be a number, a point, a tipping point, as it were, that we are over capacity, and that, for me, is reserve matters, and that is something that we can discuss in this
We can discuss it, but we have no technical knowledge as to whether we say, well, they can put 10 houses there or not.
No,
See
no.
where I'm coming from?
No, and this is why I'm talking with a condition, and it would be completely led by a capacity assessment on that site.
So I think that's what I'm suggesting, Chair, if I might, that essentially we've granted 52, we know that, that's where we're at, but what we could do through the phasing of the layout specifically is that, as you say, if 20 don't need any infrastructure, great, your phasing says go and build 20, but what you can't then do is build the remainder until you've got the phasing joined together with Anglian Water's infrastructure. So I think there is possibly, I'll defer to Ian if that does enough on landscaping.
On the edge of what, but yes, I would not advise you against that.
I mean, can I just throw into the mix here? I'm having a good old debate, why not? Is that if we don't help both sides, we're going to come unstuck in this one. And everything seems to be good for it. And I just think if you can put that in, it might again give comfort.
No,
Yeah.
I think that's what I was looking at. You know, probably between Ian and I, we might prefer an informative, but hearing what you've said and that particular relation to the layout that Councillor Keston has set out, I think that gives us enough room to say that. But I think we might just be helpful to hear that the agent has got any comments on that before we proceed, or if you wanted us to take that off the room separately, Chair, if that's helpful.
Do that before you put your 10
I actually
pennyworth
wanted
in.
to comment on what others have said.
Yeah, but can we just have the officers talking to the agent about what we're talking about?
Well, if you want, but what I want to say is relevant, but fine, I'll wait.
Yeah, okay, if it's relevant, carry on.
I completely agree with our legal and planning advice that there is already outline permission for 52 houses here. I actually think that this developer has done a reasonable job of providing a good layout, blah-de-blah, all the rest of the stuff that is in reserve matters. And I'm a bit concerned about putting the onus for the water drainage onto the developer. So personally, and I may clearly disagree, maybe I'm in disagreement with the rest of the committee, I think all we can do really is an informative. Even if there is other, and you talked about phasing, I'd like to know whether that is phasing on building or occupation, because I think there was a bit of a confusion there. But speaking from experience with other developers, I think the developer would do, from what we've heard today, I think this developer seems pretty honourable. I think the developer will do their bit. But I don't think we can hold them to account for Anglian Water's behaviour. Much as we all don't want any more sewage to be discharged into the watercourses, we've already got permission for 52 houses. I think this is a pretty reasonable scheme. I'd be happy to support it. Yes, please do as much as you can to persuade Anglian Water to do their bit, but I don't think we've got the power to do that. So I'd be happy to propose to make a proposal that we grant planning permission.
Thank you for that. Do we have a seconder to that before we go to the committee? Councillor Norris?
And as Councillor Mansell, the question that I have been puzzling with is, can you refuse an application by a developer on the basis that a third party, in this instance Anglian Water, haven't done what they should have done? I think we've explored all of that. I do have concerns about what Councillor Mayor described a little while ago, which was a further 200 houses in the area on top of the existing 280 houses. And obviously there's implications for exacerbation of the risk of the sewerage polluted flooding. But overall, I don't think, in my opinion, that we have grounds for refusing this application. So I am happy to second the recommendation for approval.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mellon, you wanted to speak, but Councillor Gould as well. Yeah, Councillor Gould, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I do agree with Councillor Mansell's summary of the position. I think it's absolutely right. I think the developer has done an excellent job here, and in a sense the concerns I have are beyond the scope of our decision here, and our powers, which are the wider points about, as voiced by Councillor Mayor. I just wanted, if I may, to clarify what is perhaps my misunderstanding about what Gemma said in relation to Anglia Water. I thought you said it was for them to raise concerns about the cumulative effect of development, and yet at the same time we've been, I understood from earlier in the discussion, that it is for them to resolve matters, whatever the conditions are around our decisions. So those seem to me to be slightly contradictory.
Yes, I suppose they are in a way, in that Anglian Water might comment notionally that they haven't got any more capacity, but they know they'll have to deliver it. So that's one scenario. Equally, they could know that we've got 200 houses coming, and therefore we have pre-built the capacity. That's an unusual scenario, but then other things might happen. So it is a changing position that is a difficult one, I suppose, for them to pin down up until the point that we've got a developer coming forward and saying, here's my delivery date, that's the minute we're going to join up, that's the moment we need the capacity delivered for. And I suppose that's the degree at which we've got involved, has been that phasing to say, okay, if Anglian Water today says we've got capacity for 20, fine, everybody's quite happy. Haven't got capacity for the remainder, we'll hold on those until the capacity comes forward. So it is just this ever-changing scenario, and that's why that would be the position I would get to if we really felt we absolutely had to, through that link to the layout. It's still, perhaps as you can tell, Ian and I have not come forward and said, yep, we'll do that, that's fine. We're struggling a little with that, but that would be the one chink that we could potentially do that through if members felt they really had to. But ultimately, in general, that would have to be agreed with Anglian Water as developers come forward. That has been the mechanism to date, and essentially what we rely on through that process. And I suppose the other thing I would say is if you're buying a house, you're not going to buy it unless it's connected. Now, that is another capacity issue, but ultimately that at Anglian Water's door, and that's the difficulty, isn't it, that their responsibility versus what we can and can't control. Does that help any more? Because it is such a complex one, sorry.
Well, I think we've got a vote, so... Oh, Councillor Warboys. Well, I thought you wanted to vote through it. You were quite determined that we need to vote it.
Well, thank you, Chair. I have to say I do disagree with Councillor Mansell and Mike Norris. Sorry. I always have a mental block with his surname. I don't know why. Sorry,
He's
Mike.
retiring.
It's there in the title that we're discussing today. Submission of details for the erection of 52 dwellings with associated landscaping, drainage and ecological works. So to my mind, drainage includes surface water drainage and it includes foul drainage. So it is within the scope of our discussions today. And I think we seem to be moving towards some sort of condition that might be applied. I would be very happy with that. If we're not going to do that, I'm a little concerned about voting in favour of this application for all its other merits.
Yes, I think I would. Thank you, Chair. I think I'd find it very difficult to support the application. In fact, I wouldn't in its present form. I think Gemma has put forward a compromise situation where we can have a phased development, and Anglian Water, they will say they've got adequate capacity because they've got to say they've got adequate capacity because they can't refuse to connect the system. So they're in a legal knot, as far as I understand, to agree to it. But I think the phased development does put the pressure on them to actually sort of come up with a scheme that would satisfy, I think in the long run, public opinion that they are actually providing a service. The consequences of getting this decision wrong are because it does set a precedent for other developments. But the sewage, if it overflows into the river system, it doesn't go anywhere else. As far as I can tell from the map, that river system is enclosed in a river basin. It doesn't ultimately end out into the open sea. Not that I'd be happy with that either, but literally the sewage stays there, and it goes into the ponds and the whatever. So it has got wider implications. So I think Gemma's proposal is a good compromise. I think it does put pressure on Anglia Waters. It unfortunately it puts pressure on the developer because I think Faux Chimneys apart, I think it's a good development, and they've gone 57, as I say, 57% above expectations in regarding sustainability. And I'd like to support that development, but we need to sort of address the consequences very seriously and get it right.
Thank you for that. Well, I too am very unhappy that we haven't got a condition on, well, not a condition, an informative on, because if we listen to the ward member, he's the person on the ground, and if we listen to everybody's passion about ecology and so on and so forth, we're going against the grain. So I'm unhappy that we haven't got even an informative, so I won't be voting with this. And can I finish? And to vote on a straight yes or no with the things as we'd had such in-depth discussions about it, I think is very poor. So that's where I sit. I would want just an informative which would assist. Councillor Caston.
Yeah, not in support of this. I don't believe that this shouldn't be allowed. I just want the conditions that we spoke about. They're not perfect. I completely accept that they're not perfect, but I think they're the best we can do, or the best we've come to support Councillor Mellon and Councillor Warboy's view on this. I think I feel a little bit for the developers because it's putting pressure on them, but we do need to deal with this. We can't let this result in another development that's not necessarily got capacity, but there's nothing we can do. So I will vote against this one, but should I get another vote with conditions, I will vote for approval with the conditions that Gemma discussed.
Well, absolutely, and what worries me is if we have a straight yes/no and this gets refused, then I think it's very poor that we didn't really consider to just put an informative on it. Councillor Mansell, you wanted to speak.
I did actually say that I would like an informative. I thought I did, but fair enough. But there's nothing to stop anybody proposing an amendment.
Then I propose we do have an amendment for an informative on the lines that Gemma was taking, please.
I'm happy to accept that amendment.
Yeah, thank you. And will the seconder accept that? And Councillor Muller.
Yes, thank you very much. I've listened to everything with great interest, and I totally agree with you. I can support this with the informative. Without the informative, I'm afraid I couldn't support it.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
And anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Mellon, you're going on about your drains, aren't you?
Can we just clarify? So there's no condition, it's just an informative. Okay.
I say it has to. Can we clarify that? Is that the best way forward rather than it has to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all comfortable with that because, as Councillor Mansell did point out, to put a condition on it is difficult to get it enforced, whereas an informative will assist at the next stage.
Madam Chair, if I may, just for the avoidance of any possible doubt, Councillor Mansell is proposing, Councillor Norris is seconding essentially the officer's recommendation with an informative as advised by Gemma. I don't know if we need to check the wording.
Which was phasing.
Yeah, that was it. That was what I had with the additional informative for the delivery of Anglian water infrastructure to be alongside the phasing of the development. But we'll develop some more wording.
Can we conclude on that? It's an informative.
It's not a planning condition.
You can get your conditions at the next sitting. You might be here.
An informative is not a planning condition. It's some text on the permission that is advisory and aspirational. I can't think of a better word than that. Would you accept that, Gemma? Yeah.
Ready to go then. In that case, then we have the availability to vote. And
Thank you, Chair. Members, our vote is now in progress. Councillor Mellon, do you want me to take your vote verbally?
Yeah, sorry the IT isn't behaving. I'm going to vote against.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. So that makes 7 votes for and 1 against. So that's carried.
thank you very much for a very lively and informative debate. I think that proved to be very, very interesting. Again, to the developer, if you want to have a look at the Lucy Group Limited, they have lampposts with electric plug-ins, which in a more perhaps urban place might be something you might consider using. I'm going to give that to the planning officers, so I'm sure they'll be looking at it. Thank you very much for your patience. I think we'll have a quick 10-minute break now. I think we all need it after that. Thank you very much, everyone. Well, welcome back and thank you very much. We move on to the second application of the day. And we have Nikita, who's going to present the case to us. Unit 18, Gipping Way, Stowe Market. Off you go.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. So this is application DC 23-00996 at Unit 1B Gipping Way in Stowe Market. The proposal is for the installation of 2 shop front door sets and associated paving to the frontage of the unit. The reason this application has been brought to committee today is because the site is on council-owned land and Mid-Suffolk District Council are the applicants. This is the site location plan, with the red highlighting the area where the proposed door sets and associated paving is to be located, and the blue highlighting the surrounding area owned by Mid-Suffolk District Council. Here is the site in relation to the Stowe Market Town Centre, which includes the train station, the St Mary's and St Peter's Church, and the Asda Superstore. This is a closer aerial view of the site, showing the parking arrangements to the southwest of the site. This is the constraints map, showing that the site is within the designated Stowe Market Conservation Area, with Grade 2 and Grade 2 star listed buildings nearby. Here is the existing site plan, which shows that the unit is part of an existing commercial unit and that the door sets are to the frontage of Unit 1B. This is the existing floor plan, showing that the adjacent business of Pure Gym, which is highlighted in pink, and the Papa John's highlighted in yellow to the west side. Just for clarity, the application does not include a change of use for Unit 1B, and the application is purely to install the door sets and the associated paving. These are the existing elevations, which show the northwest elevations to the top and the southeast to the bottom. Here is the proposed elevations for the door sets on the principal elevation, which is the only elevation proposed for change. Oh, sorry. Oh, there we go, sorry. So here is the proposed elevations for the door sets. The bottom shows the layout of the proposed door sets, which include 3 small windows to the top and 2 larger panels and a door below. There is also space above the door sets for signage should an advertisement consent be applied for by a future occupier. This is a comparison between the existing and the proposed elevations, showing how the proposal looks in the context of the building as a whole. This is the proposed floor plan. This shows that the proposed paving alterations, which includes lifting and relaying the existing paving in order to accommodate the proposed door sets and create a gentle slope rather than steps to ensure that there is safe and easy access into the unit. Onto the site photos. These are the existing brickwork panels on the principal elevation of Unit 1B. And the red highlights where the door sets are proposed to be placed. This shows the adjacent Pure Gym business. And the other adjacent business of Papa John's. The application looks to replicate the door set style that is currently in place at Papa John's. This is the view from the site onto the car park to the front of the unit. In summary, all the consultee responses that were received have raised no objection, and we have also received no local representations. As per the tabled papers, we have recommended an informative to be added to the decision, which highlights that signage above the door sets are not part of the application and a separate advertisement consent would be required to obtain this. Based on the details set out in the report, the recommendation is to grant planning permission with the 2 standard conditions of the time limit and approved plans and documents with the informative set out in the tabled papers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very nicely presented and very clear. I think it's got everything we need. But as ever, I will ask the committee, do you have any questions? Councillor Mellon.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, agree. Very good presentation. One question. these doors, will they be suitable for level access for wheelchairs, pushchairs, mobility scooters and that sort of thing?
Yes, the associated paving has a slight slope, so it will be easy for wheelchairs to go into the site.
Any further questions? No? Do we have any speakers? No. Oh, you've got off so easily. Well, from the chair, I'm going to propose we accept the recommendation. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? I think we've had enough speaking today, haven't we? So in that case, may we go to the vote, please?
Thank you, Chair. Members, that vote is now in progress. Councillor Mellon, can I take your vote verbally?
4.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. That is 8 votes for, so that is unanimous.
Thank you very much indeed. So, do we have any site inspections?
None received, Chair.
And the next meeting of Development Control B will be on the 21st of June. Thank you very much. The meeting closed.